Welcome, everyone. It's Men Cry the Car podcast. We're back again. And also, we are late 17 minutes late. Sometimes it happens like that. Pay no attention to the tardiness. Pay attention to the message and the word that will be said to you. Anyway, we are here. If you have not already, please go ahead and hit subscribe. Please share. Please comment. Send it out. Catch the live, catch the replay, all the things. Again, Men Cry in the Car podcast was birthed out of my husband losing his brother. And I share that from time to time because some people don't realize the how special the podcast is. Anyway, he lost his brother and he told me as his wife, I'm a safe space for him. And he said, now wouldn't it be dope if other men would have the same space for them, for themselves? And I was like, you know what? I guess that's what we're doing. So Men Cry in the Car podcast is for you. Ladies, if you're watching, share it with your husbands, share it with your dads, your brothers, your sons, your uncles, all the things, because they need to be seen, heard, and supported. Today, I am actually interviewing someone that I have not met personally, but he was part of a conference called Men Hurt Too. His name is Dr. Marvin Cotton. He is an author and a speaker. And so today we're going to learn more about him together. I do want to bring to the stage Mr. Dr. Marvin Cotton.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you?
I'm great. Honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. And thank you for your flexibility, your patience with all the technical difficulties and all of that. I really appreciate it. So I just want to jump right in. As I stated, I don't know you. I'm learning. I did see that you were part of the conference, Men Hurt Too. But before we get into that, everybody check out the merch, Men Cry in the Car.
Very nice.
This is what we're gonna have for you. But I want you to introduce yourself to me and to those that will be watching, those who will catch the replay, because we just need to know who you are.
Absolutely. Again, I'm very honored to be here on your platform, on your podcast. So again, just thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Dr. Marvin Cotton Jr., I'm an author and I'm a speaker. And my story kind of began for most people with wrongful conviction. I spent 19 years, 7 months, and 12 days in prison for a crime I didn't commit. And I was exonerated nearly 20 years later. It's been 4.5 years, well, a little bit more than 4.5 years now that I've been free. My case, I had a natural life sentence without the possibility of parole. So they had every intentions on me dying in prison for something I didn't do. It was a long battle. Within that battle, I learned a lot of things about myself. I was able to develop a lot of things within myself in order to be able to survive what it is that I went through. When I got out of prison, I've become an author. I'm a best-selling author. I have a few of my books in the background, Better Not Broken. I'm a national speaker. I travel around the country and I share my experience as well as try to use the motivation and the inspiration that I use in order to make it through what it is that I've been through. So that's just a little bit about my story in a nutshell.
That alone is going to bring on a great conversation. First of all, like I said, I didn't even know that was the case. 19 years for a crime you did not commit. First of all, overnight is too long.
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks is too long, but 19 years? I know we don't have to go into it as, or share as much as you want to. But hold on just for a second. How old were you when you went in?
I was 21 years old and I got out a month before I turned 41. So I spent essentially all of my 20s, all of my 30s, and was entering a whole new decade when I was released. So, yeah.
I just want to talk about the emotion of it all. Let's talk about when this happened to you, when you were placed in captivity, prison for something that you did not do. What was the emotion? What were the thoughts? What were the feelings?
Well, I guess today's show could be called Men Cry in the Cell. Initially, like one of the most profound things about, my experience is like a profound numbness. It's like you get hit so hard that you don't feel anything. You don't feel, initially you don't feel the pain. You don't feel any emotions. You can't. You can barely even think because you're so numb. I guess it's just too much trauma for the brain to really process. So
Yeah.
you're just kind of like blacked out in a way. So you're kind of moving through life on autopilot while you're fighting to prove your innocence. And while I was fighting to prove my innocence and fighting this case, it was just like a profound numbness. So that was the initial. Of course, immediately
Mm.
after that, you have the anger, you
Mhm.
have the disappointment, you have the hurt, you have the feelings of being abandoned.
Mhm.
No matter what anybody was doing for me at the time, I feel like it's not good enough because I'm still in here. You won't you apply. I applied a lot of pressure to my loved ones and anybody that I was in contact with, like help me,
Mhm.
even though I didn't know how to help myself. You're still applying pressure to everybody because
Mhm.
you're carrying the weight of this circumstance. So initially, it was profound numbness,
Mhm.
but what's interesting is the same numbness that I felt going in is the same numbness that I felt coming out.
Yeah.
Um, one came from a blow of a new circumstance, and the other came from a blow of a new circumstance.
Mhm.
Freedom is different when you've lost it, opposed to when you've never lost it. A lot of people they enjoy their freedom,
Yeah.
but
For
you
sure.
don't know what freedom feels like until you don't have it, and then you get it back. It's a complete difference. It's a reality shift that's unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. Um, and that numbness that I felt coming out stuck with me for about a year.
Okay.
So a year I didn't feel anything while everybody around me was happy. I'm seeing people that are crying,
Mhm.
they looking at me like they just seen a ghost because I had a natural life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Yeah.
So it wasn't no 20 years, 25 years and you out. It
Mhm.
was you're convicted, you have a mandatory life sentence, you die in prison.
Yeah.
So most people wrote me off.
Mhm. Mhm.
They just wrote me off. They didn't know how to help. And it was just easier for them just to accept that reality opposed to helping me fight the impossible. But I was able to prove my innocence. And getting out of prison, it took a while for those switches to come back on, those emotions to come back on, because you're turning them off
Mhm.
the entire time you're in prison. You're turning stuff off in order to survive
Yeah.
that type of circumstance.
Yeah.
And they don't come back on automatically.
Mm.
I walked out of prison October 1st, 2020.
Mhm.
They didn't come back on October 1st, 2020. You
Yeah.
know, the way that I always imagined myself feeling when I get out. I had ideas of how I would live my first day and my first week and my first month.
Yeah.
None of that applied when I
Mhm.
walked out.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
thought I wanted some fried chicken and some macaroni and cheese
Yeah.
and some asparagus. I didn't have an appetite
Yeah.
for a week.
Mhm.
I thought I was going to, enjoy, and I want to take a bath and I want to go here. Um, I went into the motel that I was staying at and didn't
Mhm.
want to come out. I was afraid to step outside
Yeah.
after being in prison for 20 years. At that time, 49% of my life. So it took a while for those switches to start to come back on,
Yeah.
and now I can barely watch a commercial without crying. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
this is the thing. I know we're getting to know each other. We don't, but I was on the opposite side. So I worked in the federal prison, the state prison and federal prison as a guard. And even doing that for years, no, I'm not comparing yours to mine. Absolutely not. What I am saying is even me working there, I had to go in being extremely numb. Like I couldn't be myself. I had to be like this hard person, very stoic, like I had no emotion. Just for people to like follow the rules, right? And so even when I would come home, like my niece and nephews would be like, "You're so mean, you're so mean, stop being so mean." And I was like, "Am I?" Thinking, because I guess I was still walking around with that mindset of like, do this, do that. And so, oh my God, I cannot even imagine having my freedom taken away from me. Because even when I would go into work, those different shifts, I would be like, I'm locked up. And yeah, it was for my shift, but I was just like, I would never want this to happen to me. So I am so very sorry that that happened to you. And the fact that you weren't even guilty. Like,
Yeah.
it sucks. And I'm not trying to like what to say, put gas to the fire. Like, I'm not trying to do that. But that freaking sucks that you had to go through that. The fact of the matter is, though, I am so grateful that you're here, because there's so many people that have gone through what you have been through and they're still in there, or they're not here anymore. Like you were saying, you were numb, and I get that. Like, this was numb, all that was numb. But the fact that you can speak to that, the fact that you go around and you speak and you're like, thank
Yeah.
you. I want to say thank you again for being here, because just hearing that little portion over 20 years of your life,
Yeah.
oh my
And
God.
you
Oh my
know, I understand that, and I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. I understand that, I'm an anomaly when it comes to what I've been through and what I'm able to do now.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I don't carry a lot of trauma, a lot
Hmm.
of pain, a lot of hurt.
Hmm.
Um, but I represent a lot of other exonerees, people that were wrongfully convicted, and the reason that I have to
Yeah.
step out front and represent, because of the trauma, a lot of us are not able to do what it is that I'm able to do
Yes.
today. So it's necessary. It's a part of my calling. It's a part of my purpose. What I went through kind of prepared me to do what it is that I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. Doesn't mean that I don't carry some institutionalized ways around with me. As you can see, we wrestle with a little bit of technology, which
Mhm.
made us late. It could have been
Mhm.
my fault, maybe, maybe not. But
Doesn't matter. We're
I'm
here.
20 years behind on technology. So,
Yeah.
that type of thing happens quite often,
Hmm. Yeah.
as I go about my day and handle business and everything.
I
And
just
it's
want
a
to.
source of frustration. It's a source of frustration as well.
I was just about to go through that, and ask you about like how frustrated, or what's the level of frustration
Yeah.
actually from
Uh,
everything.
I was a highly functional um, person in prison. I was a part of, organizing. I was speaking in prison. I was mentoring. I was like highly functional. I was one of
Hmm.
the prisoners that, had a lot going on as far as the movement of the prison and those that were in there. I
Okay.
was a part of different organizations and boards and networking in prison, outside of prison. I had a
Yeah,
lot going on.
for sure.
Um, and I thought that that was going to translate immediately when I walk out.
Mm.
I went from maybe being the sharpest I've ever been before in my life to finding out I was going home 4 days before I walked out the door. And from that moment, all that sharpness went away, because the
Mm.
reality of it just smacked me so hard.
Yeah.
Like I said, I
Yeah.
described it as like a numbness. It
Hmm.
literally affected the way that I literally hear and see.
Oh,
So
tell me more about that.
it felt like, for me, it felt like a dream state. It felt like
Okay.
I was walking through a dream
Okay.
every day for a year after I was out.
Mm.
It didn't feel real. So much so that when I first got out, I didn't sleep for 8 days because
Mhm.
I thought I was dreaming, and I was afraid if I go to sleep, I'm gonna wake up in prison. So I stayed woke until my body put me down.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how it felt. It literally felt for me like a dream,
Hmm.
that I couldn't trust.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay. Question. So when you got out, it felt like a dream. When you were in prison, did it feel like a dream, or did it feel like a nightmare, or what was that thought?
Definitely more on the nightmare side,
Okay.
but initially, like I said, initially it started off like very numb. But the thing about prison is, if you don't bounce back
Hmm.
quick, like your resilience, if it doesn't exist at the level that it should be immediately, you can spend the rest of your life in prison. So you don't have time to be depressed. Although I was depressed a lot in prison,
Yeah.
you don't have time to be depressed because you have these time limits on your on appealing your case. You got
Yeah.
14 days for this if you don't
Yeah.
respond. You got 10 days for this if you don't respond. You have 21 days for this if you don't respond. You have so you're constantly in battle mode, so you don't have time to relax. I
Mm-hmm.
became I became so good at being a loser, and I'm gonna qualify that
Mm-hmm.
because I had so many appeals and I lost so many appeals
Yeah.
that I had got so good at bouncing back
Mm-hmm.
that when I actually started winning, my
Mm-hmm.
brain didn't know how to compute that.
Mm-hmm.
So winning would send me
Yeah.
into a depression
Yeah.
because I had just built up a resistance to losing, and I was able to just jump right back into the fight. Let me get back on it. Let me get back on it. But when I started winning, I didn't know how to process that, and it
Mm-hmm.
would literally send me. I'm talking about way down into a depression,
Mm-hmm.
and you would think that it would have the opposite effect,
Mm-mm. I
uh,
understand
but
that.
it wasn't the case.
I definitely understand that. I do. So when you started winning, who was your support system? Like I know you had like legal team and everything, but who were the people that helped you through that?
Well, I have, my first year, from the time I was arrested, that first year, maybe 95% of the people that I was in contact with, and I had a really big network and social circle, stopped answering calls,
Of
fell
course.
off, family, friends, nothing.
Yep.
And some people I still haven't talked to this day,
Yeah.
and that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Um, but I had my constants. Of course, my mother was there.
Good.
Two of the guys I call my right hand. They were there. One of them was going through this experience with me. He was
Okay.
actually convicted with me, and he was exonerated with me as well. And another friend of mine whom
Mhm.
I eventually married her.
Okay.
she she rocked with me. We were friends the entire time that I was incarcerated. She answered every call, and when I got out, she was still there. And now,
Awesome.
she's still here, but now as
Yeah.
my wife.
Yeah.
And my daughter, she was 2.5 when I was arrested,
Okay.
and she kind of grew up never remembering me before prison.
Okay.
But our relationship was constant. My mother, brought her up to visit me all the time. I talked to her on the phone almost every day while I was in prison throughout the years, and
Hmm.
that relationship is still strong to this day.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. So Wendy says, I've been following your stories for years. I'm very proud of your account. Oh, who's Wendy? Wendy Chatman. She said, I've been following your stories for years. I'm very proud of your accomplishments.
Yeah, I
Yep.
believe we're connected on social
Hmm.
media. I've been very blessed to have just some solid people that's been
Hmm.
rocking with me at every stage. I
That's
run into
good.
people out in the public all the time that recognize me or know my story, and sometimes they know like the whole everything, and it's
Yeah.
like, and so
Yeah, for sure.
they've been rocking with me. So I've been very blessed in that way to have some solid people. I try to inspire people to buy into this work that I'm doing and the work that others are doing as well, dealing with criminal justice reform,
Hmm.
prison reform, as well as just developing the community because I do other things outside of criminal justice reform type work. I also do mentorship and community violence intervention and things like that in the neighborhood that I grew up in.
So I'm glad you said that because I was going to ask you some things at the end, like what else are you doing? I want to get to the conference though. So you were part of a conference called Men Hurt Too. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So what made you want to be a part of that conference and what was that all about?
Minister Stephanie Seaton, she reached out to me. Um, Actually, she reached out to me maybe about a year and a half before we connected on the conference, and I
Okay.
didn't see her message because it ended up in my spam box. I seen it a year later. I responded, and we picked right up as if it was a timely response.
Okay.
She wanted me to come to Dallas to do this conference.
Mhm.
She told me, gave me the spirit of the idea that she had and what she
Mhm.
wanted to accomplish. And I was sold, from the beginning because sometimes what men go through get lost because we're taught from day one to keep it inside, wipe your tears, shut up, stop crying, stop
Stop
being a
crying.
little girl.
Mm-hmm.
So from day one, we're taught to keep it inside, but everybody else around us is taught not to accept that from us either. So
Thank
not
you.
only is that principle drilled in us, it's also supported by the environment that young boys grow up in. And then we become men that don't want to talk about nothing. We become men that don't want to share our feelings. We become men that
Yep.
are not comfortable with those things. And we still live in a society that
Mm-hmm.
supports those ideas and those principles and those values, because if a man do start to express what's
Mm-hmm.
hurting him, is
Mm-hmm.
frowned upon.
It's
So that's why it was important for me to be a part of the conference.
mm-hmm.
I existed for 20 years in an environment where hurt people, and
Yep.
those hurt people were still hurting. So much so, in that environment, you can't be vulnerable. So everybody's hiding that they're hurting, but they still hurting people in that environment. So I understand that subject from the bottom of the barrel of what it means when men hurt. And I think it's important for society and for women and other people in our family and our community to understand that, when a man walk out of his house out into the community, especially a black man, you walking out into a world that shows you in every way that they don't want you. So when we come home, or when we come into the environment around those that we know, where we want to be comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
we need to be supported in a way that we know that we have a safe place, we have peace, we can actually express ourselves. Those things can be dealt with because we're human beings too. Meaning we have
Absolutely.
experiences that hurt, and they have to be dealt with. Just like if you hurt yourself physically, if a woman scrape herself and it's bleeding, and a man scrape himself and it's bleeding, you don't say, "Well, this woman needs to be repaired." Of course, she needs to be repaired, but he's bleeding too. He needs to be repaired. That's just on a
Also.
physical level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about on a emotional, a mental, a spiritual level?
Mm-hmm.
We get impacted by life as well, and if those things go unbandaged
Yep.
or properly taken care of,
Mm-hmm.
then we just bleed over everything in our life, and everybody's wondering what's wrong with him. He's crashing
Mm-hmm.
out. He
Mm-hmm.
got a problem, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants to address when a man is actually hurt. Those things have to be dealt with, and I think we're moving into an age where now it's a conversation.
Yeah, it is.
But for hundreds, if not thousands of years,
Mm-hmm.
that has not even been allowed to be a conversation. But we're entering a time now where we're talking about it, but we have to get to a stage where those things are actually being dealt with.
That's right. And so that I'm so glad you said that. And everything that you said was absolutely accurate. How men are raised and this and that. Because every man that comes on, they talk about that. Like, stop crying, don't do this, don't do this. But then the rest of us are taught it's not appropriate for men to cry.
Mhm.
Like, don't allow that. So when you said that, I was like, this is so true. And then with the title of Men Cry in the Car, yes, men cry in the car, in the shower, in the car, and everywhere, any place you find solitude, we understand that. However, this platform is to get you out of the car.
Mhm.
That's the safe space for it. That's the brave space for it. Yeah, that's where you want to cry before you go home. You have to be a father now, or you have to be a husband now, after all that those times or hours at work or being an entrepreneur and all those things, and now you got to come home pretending like nothing is going on. That's why I say this platform is for y'all. It's not for me. Yes, I'm the host, but it's for y'all, because we want to be able to give resources. We want people like yourselves to come on and share, like, your stories and how you overcame, and how you're still battling, but you are still doing these things as well. So yeah, we want to get you out the car for sure. I want you to talk a little bit more about when you did the conference and what it meant to you. Now I understand everything that you just said, but showing up for the conference, like, what was your agenda? Like, what did you want the men to how did you want to impact them? What did you want them to gain from hearing your story or you being there?
Um, I wanted to, be very open, which I was. And especially in those type of environments, I like to really
Mhm.
be open because I want people to be able to get the most out of, um, my experience and what I went through. But mainly, I want them to know that no matter what they are going through, that there's an avenue for them to survive it. But one of the jewels
Mhm.
of being there, um, it was a young man there. He probably was in his mid 30s, and he was at the hotel where the conference was at, and he had his young son with him. His son was probably about 8, 9 years old,
Okay.
and they wasn't a part of the conference, but they were in the lobby waiting on something. I don't know what they was waiting on, but
Okay.
Minister Stephanie invited them to join the conference. Like we
Mhm.
have plenty food, and some good people that you may want to meet and just network with. And fortunately, the guy brought his son in, and they end up sitting at the table with me and the other speakers.
Okay.
And we just started talking. The son, it was a beautiful experience. He actually walked around the table and shook every man's hand,
Oh.
which is kind of unheard of with somebody that young. But he looked everybody in the face, shook everybody's hand, asked us our name and everything. I was like, "Who taught you this?" But he
Mhm.
had his father. He had his father
Yeah.
right there. But um, the father, he had experienced so much generosity, and just the experience. He sat at the table and just cried.
Mhm.
And it was like he had just been impacted, that it's like really some good people out here.
Yeah.
And that made that weekend for me. It really did. Just seeing him impacted like that,
Mhm.
and being reminded the type of people that's out here in the world.
Mhm.
That just like really did it for me.
Mhm.
And I met some other fantastic people, other men in the room, other speakers. I stay in contact with some, and of course, I'm open to stay in contact with everybody. But it was just an overall beautiful experience. Um, um, I lived in Texas for a short time
Okay.
as a child,
Okay.
in Dallas for a very short time. It was a horrible experience. Um,
Yes, that's
um,
horrible.
it was horrible because we moved. The area we lived in. It was very racist. I went to a school. I was the only
Mhm.
black child at the
Mhm.
school. They did me real bad
Mhm.
immediately. Like my first day, they kicked me out. My first day.
Mhm.
My mother was with
Yep.
the guy that we moved down there for her to be with. He was very
Mhm.
abusive, so that
Mhm.
was a whole nother layer to it. So coming to the conference was my first time coming back to Dallas. So it was like a
Oh.
full circle moment for me, because when we left Dallas fleeing.
Okay.
That was like we left in the middle of the night, like we got to go. It was that type of situation. So
Mhm.
coming back to Dallas after going through everything that I've been through, I didn't feel like a small child anymore. I came back to Dallas feeling pretty damn big,
Yeah, for
you,
sure.
you
For
know, and
sure.
and it felt good to be there. Um, it's beautiful. I
Mhm.
had a great time. It was a full circle moment for me. It felt more like a spiritual journey than a job.
Okay. Okay.
Of course, I'm coming there to do a job, but it felt more like a spiritual journey. Like this had to happen in order for me to close some of the things that I had experienced as a child, and to enter that same space, the man that God have
Mhm.
grown me to be.
Mhm. Mhm. So now I'm interested to know what type of child were you up to 21? Like, how did you show emotions? What did you feel comfortable doing? Was your mom the type of woman that allowed you to cry, to let you know that everything is okay? It's all right to not have it all together. It's okay when you've, I don't know, maybe failed a test or had your heart broken. Was she the type of woman that allowed you to show emotion?
That's a yes and a no.
Okay.
My mother is she's had a full life experience that have toughened her. A lot of the women in my family like are really really tough women that go toe to toe with the best of the best of them. And I remember being a teenager and having my heart broke for the
Hmm.
first time. And as you know, for a young man, or at the time really a boy, having your heart broke, you don't know how to navigate that. So I remember kind of like moping around, and my mother had made a comment to me that I don't even know if I can repeat on this podcast, but my mother had pretty much told me, if you acting soft, you're gonna get played like you soft. And the way I just said it was, I put it really nicely.
I already know what she said.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. She said, if you play this, you know, you know, and it was such a pivotal moment for me,
Yeah.
because for one, I had never heard my mother talk like that before, and not only was she talking like that, she was saying it to me.
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
it like really kind of made me tuck some things deeper down. I can't show this. It's not
Okay.
okay for me to show that I'm hurt. If a woman
Hmm.
or a female, young woman at the time, if a young woman was to hurt me, it's not okay to show that. Um, and of course, I'm not blaming my mother for
Hmm.
the young man that I eventually grew into, that was just horrible when it came to relationships. But everybody in and around my life
Hmm.
were supporting um, um, things that when you get older, you just realize none of those things were good to be. Like, but for a young man, everybody thought that this is how a young man should be.
Yeah.
You know, get over it. You know what
Uh-huh.
I'm saying?
Hmm.
You have no reason. What, like, straighten up, man. Do you? And
Exactly.
they reinforce all of these ideas that
Hmm.
somebody drilled into them,
Hmm.
because
Exactly.
it comes from somewhere. And when you dig back far enough, it comes from things that was rooted in pain and trauma, and then they give it to you and they pass it off to you wrapped in love. So you
Hmm.
accept it because it's wrapped in love, but it's really um, setting up the next person to be hurt by what was passed on to you.
Exactly.
And that's the cycle that we really trying to break. But
Yep.
not only this conference, which was absolutely beautiful,
Hmm.
there's a lot of work being done to really break a lot of those generational curses. And I understand where it comes from. I understand that the people that we love were hurt. The people
Yeah.
we love, found ways to survive their circumstance and what they were going through, and they're trying to give you a way to survive as well. Not knowing that they really passing something down that we can do without.
And what we should do without. And I like when you said wrapped in love, because that's what we think we're doing. That's
Mhm.
what our parents thought they were doing. That's what their parents, our grandparents thought they were doing. To me, it's wrapped in projection. It's wrapped in something that they feel is love, but it's really not. It's really hurt, but because it's the role of a mother or role of a grandparent, it's wrapped in love. And because a lot of times, and I'll say this because when you said that, it made me think about my dad. My dad never knew how to love, and he was so aggressive, so mean. Like we thought he was mean, but he deep down inside he was like a really kind person. He just didn't know how to show love. So when it was time to correct us, it was very forceful and very like a um what is the word, a dictator. That's what I'm thinking about. What's going on in the world? It was like a dictator, and so it was like, oh, we can't do anything. So was it wrapped in love for him? Probably so. But I'm just like, sir, you didn't know how to do anything, and now you're trying to parent us, and now it's coming off like this. So the wrapped in love part. I mean, I know we mean, are you are a parent. we mean well. We mean to stop the curses and the patterns and all those things. But then sometimes it shows up like that. That's the reason why we got to take care of this and we got to take care of this,
Yeah.
because you don't want to continue to repeat these things over and over and over. The time when you said my mom, like she allowed me to do, I mean, show emotion here and there and not really, by the time you got to 20 or 21, had you already just learned you better not show emotion?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. It was a lifestyle
Yeah.
at that point that I had began to perpetrate on others, to
Yep.
where the younger guys and the guys that was around me, we would ridicule each other
Mhm.
for showing weakness,
Mhm.
or expressing themselves, or
Mhm.
whether it was a outright chastisement for that, or a joke,
A
or a
joke.
way
Yep.
to make somebody feel embarrassed. And we
Yep.
do it as men, to where we the same thing that was forced on us.
Mhm.
We've become the oppressor. We was oppressed by it,
Yep.
being that little boy that's hurting, and we know we feel something, and we're crying about it,
Mhm.
and nobody around us won't let us cry about it.
Mhm.
And we're able to see the little girls around us; they're allowed to cry,
Mhm.
and we feel something, but we're
Mhm.
not allowed to cry. And we
Mhm.
grow into men that really maintain that status quo. And it means a lot when it comes from a man that's trying to, hey, this is how a man behave, and you can't act like this. You can, and you follow the example. You're
Right.
looking at somebody that look just like you, and
Yeah.
that you really want to be like, and you don't know he's passing you pain wrapped in
There it
love.
is. There it is. That's exactly it. This is the thing. So I have, well, we have two sons. One is 22, and then the other one is 7. Okay. Our 7-year-old, I allow him to cry all the time. I don't care. What's wrong, baby? What happened? When he explains that to me, then I let him know. I can see how that hurts your feelings. I see why you're crying. And then I also tell him there's certain things you want to cry about, and there's certain things you want to be upset about, whatever, and you don't really have to cry. However, if you want to cry at any time, go ahead and do it. Because I don't want my son to grow up to be my brothers, my dad, my uncles, my grandfathers, because that's how they were raised. I want my son to understand it is okay to cry because he doesn't have to cry in the car.
And
When you go
and
ahead.
and when you understand what hurts you,
Hmm.
and the better you're connected to your own emotions, it allows that empathy to where you can interact with other people. We
That's
live in
right.
a world today where nobody feels nobody else's pain anymore,
Mm, mm,
and it's because we're disconnected from our own.
mm,
And when you don't feel anybody else's pain, it's easier for you to hurt them,
mm-hmm,
because you don't
mm-hmm.
really understand the severity and the extent of what you're inflicting, because you're disconnected from their pain and you're disconnected from your own. Um,
Absolutely.
it's not natural to hurt other people, so when you do, it should make you feel a certain way.
That's right.
But when you stuff that down so far, it becomes easier.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot of things in our society that is wrong, that is a consequence
Yeah.
uh, of men being taught not to cry, not to feel,
Mm-hmm.
not to show. We see something in society that's going on right in front of our face, and we don't want to say anything about it. Because we don't even say anything about our own stuff. Like, that's none of my business.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the ripples of that thing
Mm-hmm.
can affect your very household. Um,
Correct.
so I think just getting better connected, and the better we start to really go inside of ourselves and reconnect in that way, it's going to allow us to reconnect in society, to be able to help each other better.
That's
Um,
right.
yeah, I know it's not as simple as that, but for the sake of this show,
Huh. It's not as simple as that, but it's a decision. It is a decision to understand to change that. It is a choice, is a decision to actually have empathy, and not just be like, okay, that's not my business, whatever. I know ever since I was a little child that this is what I was supposed to be doing. I thought I was supposed to be a doctor because I knew I was supposed to help people, but I didn't know I was going to be a counselor. And I was like, yeah, that's what that is. In the very beginning, I would feel everybody's energy, emotion, pain, or whatever until I learned I wasn't a savior, which God had to help me with that. He says, you're not the savior I am. You are a resource. Once that changed for me, I understood what empathy was. And I was like, that's what that is. That's not me trying to come and swoop in and save. But you're absolutely right when it comes to people saying, like, I don't really care about what's happening to you. There's so much going on with me. And I think that's the reason why people call themselves empaths. I do not. Um, I do feel very heavy. I'm very sensitive to who's around me. Um, I can feel pain, but I do not call myself an empath because I feel like that goes back to me saying I'm a savior. My question when you were talking is because you have all of this knowledge and experience and still dealing with trauma and other things too, like you said, no, don't think I don't still deal with those things. I know you do. When you go around and you speak, who are you speaking to and what's the message that you're giving?
Well, I've been blessed to have different audiences. My my hopes is always to have the greatest impact as possible. So I do something in Illinois where I do police trainings where they have a wrongful conviction and avoidance training that they do within the police academies.
Okay.
And I participate in those trainings. So of course, that's a different audience where we have all of these police cadets
Mm-hmm.
that are going to go off into these careers and be, police officers
Mm-hmm.
and correctional officers and state police and sheriff department. And if they can take my story and what happened to me and have that as a reference, a real reference, while they go about their life,
Yeah.
it can save people from the pain that they experience. I also speak at a lot of universities around the country where I'm talking to law students, people that's going to be attorneys and prosecutors,
Mm-hmm.
be eventually judges and legislators.
Yeah.
And some go off and do other things outside of that. But for the most part, that is a very unique audience as well because I was saved by those type of people. So if they can use my life as a reference as well to carry with them as they do their work so that they'll never forget why they started doing that, that's a beautiful thing. I speak at high schools and middle schools. I've even spoke at elementary schools.
Mm-hmm.
I've spoke for nonprofits. I had audience dealing with fatherhood and maternity health.
Yep.
I've done some great things here in Michigan with United Way, SimQuick. So I speak at innocence conferences, innocence network fundraisers, things in that wheelhouse have
Mm-hmm.
typically been really the bulk of what I do.
Okay. All right. So
But I'm open to other things. If you have some ideas where you think you can use me.
absolutely, because I was like, because what the message is overcome for sure, definitely overcome. So the books, tell us about the books and where we
well,
can get those.
my book here, it is an Amazon bestseller, Better Not Broken. You can find it on Amazon. You can order it. This is a book that I don't care who you are, you will cry at the beginning of this book, but you might have to set it down once or twice. But when you pick it back up, and I'm telling you what people tell me, this is what I hear the
Mm-hmm.
most.
Mm-hmm.
But when you pick it back up, you're going to be able to read it straight through. It is a self help book, although I use my experience and I use different stories throughout my experience so that the reader can walk in my shoes without
Okay.
experiencing what I experienced. And
Yeah.
then at the end of each chapter, I kind of break down the different toolkits that I use in order to make it through. People always ask me, like, how did you get through that? I can never imagine
Mm-hmm.
getting through that. So I said, okay, I'm gonna write a book so I can tell people exactly how I got through it. So that's this book. Also, I have another book that pre-sales will be starting this week.
Okay.
It's called Let There Be Light. Envy, jealousy, and hate are natural consequences of greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very proud of this book. It is a self-help book as well, but I use, my life going back to childhood to present day with
Mm-hmm.
just experiencing the disease of envy and jealousy and how that can turn into hatred and sometimes make people move a little differently than they would move if they were focused on the purpose that God put in their life.
Yeah.
It is a spiritual book, but it is very practical,
Mm-hmm.
and I do experience a lot of that. I am a pretty high profile person dealing with the work that I do and what I've been through. So I figured I need to write a book not only to help other people that experience jealousy and envy as well,
Mm-hmm.
but also to those that may be suffering from it. It's a guide to help them overcome that disease. It's real. It's out there. We see it all
It
day,
is.
every day. We know that people will hate on you. And I wrote a book in order to hopefully bless people to protect themselves from that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So now it's going to be two books, or do you have a third one?
No, that'd be two books. I'm
Okay.
working on a third one, but I'm not ready to talk about that yet.
Okay. I understand. I
I,
understand.
I
I
had
get it.
I had got into my writing flow,
Uh,
and when I finished this book, I immediately started working on some ideas that I had came up with, it, and I'm proud of that, and I haven't even
mhm.
finished it yet.
Mhm. That's what's up. I love that. So, do you have any brand deals we can talk about?
um,
Because
um,
they are coming if you don't already have them. That's for sure.
well, I'm definitely open for them. If anybody that has a brand that really can marry my brand,
Hmm.
I'm very protective of my brand and what I stand for and what I
For
stand
sure.
on. I'm only interested in helping people. I've built an entire life around helping people,
Yeah.
and I have not taken a step towards. And I really don't feel like I've taken any steps towards doing anything for me yet. And at this stage in my life, I am okay with that because I feel very fulfilled, living a life that is really all about helping everybody get ahead. I feel really good about where I'm at.
Yeah. I love that. So on your healing journey, because that's what I call it. On your healing journey, what are the tools that you took, but that you are still currently using as you continue?
I think, in order for a person to truly heal, I think that there's just a few things that are really universal.
Hmm.
You have to stop and really acknowledge the pain. Sometimes we don't even
Hmm.
want to admit that we're hurting or
Hmm.
that we have things going on in our life. Sometimes we just like, I'm all right, I'm all right. People ask you how you doing. I'm all right, I'm all right. You can't start your healing journey until you stop and acknowledge that you're hurting or you've been hurt. Yes, you might be okay, but you cannot start your healing journey until you acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge it. And even farther than that, you have to acknowledge it. You have to point it out. And then start to trace that injury that you have, trace it back to the origin. And then start working yourself from the origin of that injury to the present day, and then also start to look at everything that everything that has been caused from that
Hmm.
injury,
Yeah.
that you've done and that you allowed other people to do to you. You have people that have been abused as children or even
Hmm.
as adults,
Hmm.
and they have allowed other people to misuse them
Hmm. Hmm.
because they feel like they deserve it, or it's no sense of me having a protective covering around myself. I've been violated already.
That's right.
So so trace start with the injury.
Hmm.
Remember it. Sometimes we bury it. Sometimes we bury the injury from ourselves because it's just so painful that we
Yeah.
bury it. But we don't bury the consequence though, because
Hmm.
the consequence is still unfolding in our life. And sometimes we be so caught up on the symptoms that we don't even realize, like when I was 8 years old, this happened to me. Or when I was 12, this happened to me. And maybe that's why my life is spiraling out of control, or why
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
drinking, or why I'm using drugs, or why am I trying to numb myself? Why am I trying to escape? So
Hmm.
trace to the injury. I'm saying it
Hmm.
over and over again because I really need anybody that's listening to my voice to really hear it.
Hmm.
Start with the injury. Work yourself to present date. Look at
Hmm.
everything that you may have allowed in your life because of it, and the things that you may have done to other people because of it. And then the next step is to forgive yourself for everything from your hands, and
Mm-hmm.
forgive others for everything that they've done, not for
Yep.
their benefit, but because when you forgive, you're relieving yourself of the weight. It's weight attached to holding on to things.
Yeah.
Sometimes we feel justified in holding on to pain because, in our anger, sometimes we feel like we're paying somebody back. Like everybody gonna feel it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
mad. I'm angry. Ain't nobody ever gonna do this to
Mm-hmm.
me again. And it almost
Mm-hmm.
it's almost a satisfaction attached to it because we feel like we're actually protecting or fighting this thing that's really no longer there, but we're hurting ourselves and everybody around us. We're burning up
Yeah.
relationships. Nobody want to be around us. We mean as hell.
Yep.
We irritable.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what nobody do, nobody can't do nothing right. We just tearing
Mm-hmm.
up our life, and we don't realize that the consequences actually putting us at a disadvantage in life than setting us up for advantage.
Right.
So forgiveness, let it go. Not let it go as in people don't deserve that. You deserve accountability. So you letting it go
Yeah.
don't mean you're not holding people accountable,
That's right.
but really dig into it. And in my journey, and I'm just talking to you about things that you can read in my book that I did. um, I had to forgive people that would never participate in the forgiveness process. Can you do that? That's like
Mm-hmm.
that's like
Yeah.
like really think about that.
Yep.
You have to forgive people that would never say sorry to you.
That's right. There it is.
They will never say it. In fact, they won't even entertain a conversation with you to apologize. And you have to find a way to forgive people that would
Mm-hmm.
never even participate in the process.
Never.
So
That's right.
so in your forgiveness of them, you are really setting yourself in a process of healing.
Mm-hmm.
They may not participate in the process, but you're participating in the process that's going to allow you to heal and grow beyond the pain that they inflicted on you.
That's right.
So that's the start of it. But being
Mm-hmm.
consistent with it, being prepared, because when you start opening up this stuff, it's not going to feel good. Some things are going to feel good once you get past and you be like, wow, I
Mm-hmm.
never thought about it like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you be like, wow, I can't
Mm-hmm.
believe the reason I'm in these bad relationships, it
Mm-hmm.
started with that.
Because of that. That's
And it's
right.
and those realizations are going to feel great. It's going to feel good. Then it's going to be other things that don't feel so good, but you still got to face it. So a part of your healing, can you imagine trying to bandage a wound without looking at it? You're trying to clean it out. You got to put some peroxide or some alcohol on it, but you want
Mm-hmm.
to do it without looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, you got to look at it. You got to,
Mm-hmm.
in order to clean it, you got to see. You might be leaving things in there that would if you just look at it. So you have to
Yeah.
face pain.
Mm-hmm.
You have to face it because if you turn away from it,
Yeah.
it weakens your ability to face it again. So you have to face it, really look at it. Pain has a purpose. The purpose of pain is to let you know something is wrong.
That's
Um,
right.
Pain is not the destination. It's not the end all. No, pain is just trying to get your attention. Like, hey, you stepping on a nail.
Uh-huh. For
You
sure.
might want to lift your foot up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get stuck on the pain and never pull the nail out of your foot,
Yeah.
you'll lose your whole damn leg
That's
because you
right.
didn't you ignored the pain or got caught up in the pain.
Mm-hmm.
So pain doesn't feel good, but you have to face it because it's just letting you know something is wrong and something is off, something you need to address immediately. That's why we experience pain.
Right.
So having an appetite for that is necessary for healing. Now, just know that this process is not an easy process, but it's one that has nothing but benefits in it. And once you get through it, now
Mm-hmm.
you can deal with life on a different level. Don't mean you're not going to deal with things. but now you can deal with life at a higher level, at a different level, a level that has wisdom and understanding, and will allow you to use what you've been through and find your purpose in helping not only yourself, your family, your community, and other people.
Yeah.
That's why we have these
Yeah.
experiences. Carrying a cross is not easy, but it make for some strong, good-looking legs. It might hurt your shoulder, but
Mm-hmm.
it makes for some strong, good-looking legs that can get some
Mm-hmm.
things done. Now you
Mm-hmm.
can move better because you got stronger legs. That's why
Mm-hmm.
you had to carry that cross. That's why you had to
That's
carry that
right.
experience. So I'm sorry. I don't know
Mm-mm.
how long I went on that tangent,
Mm-mm.
but
Mm-mm.
um, that's what I believe is necessary. Some of the things that's necessary in a healing journey. Um,
Absolutely.
it's not all about the mushy, feel good, about to go on a vacation and go on the beach, and then you come home from that beautiful vacation and you still living with the pain. No, you got to dig in
Gotta
there
dig it.
and really address these things. So when you go on vacation, you can really see the beauty in that beach,
Mm-hmm.
opposed to using the beach to cover up the pain that's inside of you.
Right. Or to escape from your life, for
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely. This is so good. Okay. Two things. Um, is there anything that you know that's on your calendar if that you want to share? If we can support you, anything you're doing in the community, any other speaking engagements, how people can find you.
Um, Definitely, you can stay posted on a lot of stuff that I have going on. I'm on Facebook, which
Mm-hmm.
is Marvin Cotton Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also on. I have two Facebook pages. I have Dr. Marvin Cotton Jr. as well. I'm on LinkedIn, Marvin Cotton Jr. I'm on Instagram, the underscore real underscore FMC, and Better Not Broken on Instagram and Facebook
Okay.
as well. So I'm not hard to find. I do have a website, www.betternotbrokenllc.org. You can see a lot of events and stuff that I have going on. I will be posting my link for pre-sales to my
Good.
new book this week. So you can follow that on social media on really all platforms. And I will be putting that link out there so people can, get their pre-orders in. I do have some specials with the pre-orders with book readings,
Mm-hmm.
custom bookmark. I do have things so people, if you want to pre-order, it's definitely some benefits to pre-order.
Yep. Absolutely. Very last thing, because we don't know who's going to share this interview. We don't know who will stumble upon it. We don't know any of that. Whoever is supposed to find is supposed to find. That young man, that woman, whomever that sees this, that needs to have their husband, their father, their son hear this word, what would you tell that little boy, that teenager, that man?
Don't give up. Don't give up. Um, if you're listening to this, if you're watching it, do not give up. The very fact that you are here, um, and have life in you, you have fight in you. Do not give up. Throughout the 20 years that I was in prison, in those very dark, quiet, cold, lonely nights, you have all types of thoughts that try to creep into your mind. You have to be bigger than any circumstance that you're up against, and do not give up. See it through. You have the ability to outlive any of the circumstances that you have going on in your life. The very courthouse, the big menacing building where I lost my life in, is crumbling and falling apart. I've outlived the building. They're scheduled to tear it down. I've
Mm-hmm.
outlived the building.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, if you just tap into what you already have in you, you have it in you to outlive and survive whatever circumstance that is coming up against you. I don't care how hard it is, how much you've lost, how much money you need in order to make something happen. You have the ability to make it happen and to keep to persevere on.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that word. And thank you for coming. I really appreciate you being here. I have learned so much about like perspective. You know, like when you really think you've been through something, and I have, and I know other people have too. And then you hear a story like yours, you're like, oh, at least I've always had my freedom. And that right there, just like it's just totally different perspective. I will be sharing this as well to some other people that I know needs to hear your story. Thank you for being transparent. Thank you for sharing what you could share about it. And just thank you for being here. I really appreciate you so much.
Absolutely.
Do not leave. Do not leave because I want to talk to you right after. But thank you again for being here. Okay.
Yep, thank you for having
All
me.
right. Yes. Everyone, thank you so much for being here at Men Cry in a Car podcast. As always, you know, men, I tell you every single time, I see you, I hear you, and I support you. Bye for now.